Imagine being a king, draped in velvet, crowned with gold, ruling an entire kingdom, only to meet a death so gruesome it haunts history books forever. Did you know some medieval kings died in ways that make horror movies look tame? From being stabbed in their sleep to facing betrayals that ended in unthinkable agony, the shocking truth about their fates will leave you speechless. Why did these rulers, the most powerful men of their time, meet such horrific ends? Stick with me as we uncover the bloody secrets of medieval royalty, and trust me, you won't believe what's coming. What's the most shocking historical death you've ever heard of? Drop it in the comments. I'm all ears. Let's step into the treacherous world of medieval Europe, where a crown was as much a target as a symbol of power. Kings weren't just rulers. They were walking bullseyes for rivals, rebels, and even their own kin. Take King Edward II of England, for example. In 1327, this guy's reign was a mess. Failed wars, a rebellious wife, and a kingdom on the brink. His wife, Queen Isabella, teamed up with her lover, Roger Mortimer, and ousted him. The official story? Edward died of natural causes in Berkeley Castle. But whispers from the time tell a darker tale. Some say he was smothered. Others claim a red-hot poker was used in a way too gruesome to describe here. The truth is murky, but one thing's clear. His death was no accident. It was a calculated move to silence a fallen king. Imagine being betrayed by your own spouse like that. What would you do if someone close turned against you? Share your thoughts below. But not all kings died at the hands of scheming relatives. Some faced the wrath of their own people. Let's talk about King Charles I of France, known as Charles the Simple. Not exactly a flattering nickname. In 929, this king was trying to keep his fractured kingdom together, but his nobles had other plans. They locked him in a tower in Péronne, where he wasted away, forgotten and starving. Starving? A king? The irony is brutal. Rulers who feasted on venison and wine could end up with nothing but damp stone walls. Charles's death wasn't quick or dramatic, but that slow, lonely decline was its own kind of horror. It makes you wonder, how could a king fall so far? Have you ever felt betrayed by people you trusted? Let's hear your story in the comments. Now, let's shift to the battlefield, where many kings met fates as bloody as their wars. King Richard the Lionheart, England's legendary warrior king, survived countless battles, only to meet a shockingly undignified end in 1199. While besieging a minor castle in France, he was hit by a crossbow bolt in the shoulder. No big deal, right? Wrong. The wound festered, and medieval medicine, think leeches and herbs, was no match for infection. Gangrene set in, and Richard, the guy who faced down Saladin, died in agony, reportedly in his mother's arms. The kicker? The archer who shot him was a nobody, a lowlife who got flayed alive for it. Talk about a twist of fate. A king felled by a random shot. What's a moment in history where luck totally flipped the script? Drop it below. But battlefield deaths weren't always so random. Some kings walked right into their doom, driven by ambition or bad decisions. Take King Harold II of England, who died at the Battle of Hastings in 1066. You've probably heard of this one, William the Conqueror's invasion that changed history. Harold was a seasoned warrior, but he was stretched thin, fighting off Vikings in the north before racing south to face William. During the battle, legend says an arrow pierced his eye, leaving him vulnerable to Norman swords. Whether the arrow story is true or not, his death was a brutal, chaotic mess, his body so mangled it was barely recognizable. Imagine leading your army only to be cut down in the mud. Could you handle the pressure of a do-or-die battle? Let me know in the comments. Let's not forget the kings who fell to poison, the silent killer of the medieval world. Poison was the weapon of choice for those too clever or too cowardly to wield a blade. King John of England, the guy who signed the Magna Carta, might have met this fate in 1216. John was a hated king. Taxes, wars, and a knack for alienating everyone didn't help. While on campaign, he fell ill with dysentery, but some chronicles hint at poison in his wine or peaches. No hard proof, but the timing was suspiciously convenient for his enemies. His death was slow and miserable, with fever and pain tearing him apart. Poison or not, it's chilling to think even a king's cup wasn't safe. What's a food or drink you'd never trust in a shady situation? Share it below. Now, let's dive into the religious angle, because faith and death went hand in hand in the Middle Ages. Some kings died for their beliefs, or for defying the church. King Louis IX of France, later St. Louis, was a devout crusader, but his obsession with holy wars led to his grim end in 1270. During the Eighth Crusade, he landed in Tunis, hoping to convert the locals. Instead, his army was hit by dysentery and plague. Louis, weak and feverish, died on a bed of ashes, praying to the last. His death was seen as saintly, but let's be real. Dying of disease in a foreign land, far from home, is horrific in its own way. It makes you wonder, was his faith worth the price? What's something you'd risk everything for? Let's hear it in the comments. But not all royal deaths were about betrayal or battle. Some were just freakishly bizarre. Enter King Alexander III of Scotland, whose 1286 death sounds like a dark comedy. One stormy night, Alexander, eager to get home to his new wife, rode his horse off a cliff in the dark. Yep, a cliff. No assassins, no epic battle, just a king too stubborn to wait out the weather. His death plunged Scotland into chaos, sparking wars over the throne. It's almost absurd, a single bad choice wiping out a dynasty. You've got to wonder, what's the dumbest risk you've ever taken? Drop it below and let's see if it tops a king riding off a cliff. Let's talk about the psychological toll, because being a king wasn't just dangerous. It was a mental minefield. Kings lived in constant fear of betrayal, rebellion, or divine judgment. Take Henry VI of England, a king during the Wars of the Roses. Henry was a gentle soul, more monk than monarch, and his weak rule made him a target. In 1471, after being deposed, he was imprisoned in the Tower of London. His death was officially melancholy, but most historians agree he was quietly murdered, likely stabbed or smothered. The horror wasn't just the act. It was the paranoia that haunted him for years, knowing anyone could turn. Imagine living with that dread. What's a time you felt totally paranoid? Share it in the comments. Now, let's zoom out to the bigger picture. Why were these deaths so horrific? Medieval society was brutal, and kings were at the top of a violent food chain. Power came with enemies, nobles, peasants, even the church could turn on you. Plus, medicine was a joke. A scratch could kill you. And don't forget superstition. Many believed a king's death was God's punishment for sins. This mix of politics, violence, and fear created a perfect storm where horrific deaths weren't just possible, they were expected. It's wild to think that the most powerful men lived on a knife's edge. What's a modern job you think comes with that kind of pressure? Let me know below. But here's where it gets really juicy. Some kings' deaths were covered up to save face. Take King William II of England, killed in 1100 during a hunting accident in the New Forest. An arrow to the chest shot by his friend Walter Tyrrell. Oops. The official story was a stray shot, but many suspect murder. William was unpopular, and his brother Henry conveniently seized the throne days later. No investigation, no trial, just a quick burial and a new king. The cover-up was slick, but the whispers of foul play never died.
It's like a medieval true crime mystery. What's a historical mystery you're obsessed with? Drop it in the comments. Let's not ignore the spectacle of royal deaths, because some were public horror shows. King Conraden of Sicily, just 16 years old, was beheaded in 1268 after losing a battle to Charles of Anjou. His execution in Naples's public square was meant to crush rebellion and send a message. The crowd watched as this young king, grandson of an emperor, lost his head. His last words, begging for mercy, didn't save him. The brutality wasn't just the act, it was the humiliation, the public stripping of a king's dignity. Could you stomach watching something like that? What's the most intense historical event you've read about? Share it below. Now, let's talk about the aftermath, because a king's death didn't just end a life, it could end an era. When King Philip IV of France died in 1314 after a hunting accident, his death sparked a succession crisis that fueled the 100 Years' War. A simple fall from a horse led to decades of bloodshed. It's mind-blowing how one moment could ripple through history, leaving kingdoms in chaos. These horrific deaths weren't just personal tragedies, they reshaped Europe. What's a single event you think changed the world forever? Let's hear it in the comments. So, why did medieval kings face such horrific deaths? It was a deadly cocktail of power struggles, primitive medicine, and a culture where violence was justice. Betrayal could come from your wife, your nobles, or even your own bad choices. Battlefields claimed warriors, poison silenced rivals, and even a stormy night could end a dynasty. Yet these stories captivate us because they're raw, human, and terrifyingly real. The next time you think being a king sounds glamorous, remember the price, sometimes paid in blood. Here's your challenge. Pick one medieval king and dig into his story. You'll be shocked at what you find. Try it, and let me know what you uncover in the comments. If this blew your mind, smash that like button, share this with your history-loving friends, and subscribe for more jaw-dropping dives into the past. Trust me, the next one's gonna be even wilder. What's the most shocking royal death you learned about today? Drop it below and let's keep the conversation going.